The rain tasted like pennies when it hit Maya's lips, metallic and sharp, mixing with the salt tracking down from her eyes. She stood in the parking lot of Lawrence Memorial Hospital, her white coat plastered against her shoulders, watching the red taillights of her mother's sedan disappear into the storm. The cake box sat at her feet, cardboard dissolving into mush, pink frosting bleeding through the sides like a wound. "Happy 8th birthday, Lily," the cursive letters read, still visible despite the downpour. Maya's pager buzzed against her hip. Trauma incoming, 15 minutes. She should move. Should turn around and walk back through those automatic doors into the fluorescent certainty of the ER, where she was Dr. Chen, where her hands knew exactly what to do, where nobody's birthday ever mattered more than her presence. But her legs had turned to concrete. The smell hit her then, that specific combination of rain on hot asphalt and sugar dissolving in water, and suddenly she was 8 years old again, standing in a different parking lot, wearing a dress 2 sizes too small because Mom had been too busy planning Lily's party to take her shopping. The memory shouldn't have been so vivid. She'd spent 15 years trying to forget that particular birthday, the one that coincided with her elementary school graduation ceremony. A car horn blared. Maya stepped back onto the curb, and the movement jarred something loose in her chest. Not quite pain, more like recognition. Like the feeling of coming home to a house you'd lived in before, in another life. She bent down and picked up the ruined cake box. Water sloshed inside. Through the clear plastic window, she could see the princess figurine Lily had specifically requested, now lying face down in a puddle of pink and blue icing. Maya had driven 45 minutes after a double shift to deliver this cake because Mom's oven had broken. And of course, Lily's party couldn't possibly go on without the exact cake she'd envisioned. The pager buzzed again. This time, Maya turned. Her sneakers squelched with each step across the pavement. The automatic doors whooshed open, breathing out air-conditioned hospital air, that distinctive scent of antiseptic and floor wax, and something darker underneath that only medical professionals could smell. The scent of bodies breaking down and being built back up. "Dr. Chen," Marcus, the night nurse, waved from the admit desk. "Thought we lost you. Multi-vehicle collision on I-95. 3 critical, 2 stable, ETA 7 minutes. Maya dropped the cake box in the trash can by the entrance. The pink princess disappeared beneath crumpled coffee cups and someone's half-eaten sandwich. "I'm here," she said, and her voice came out steady. It always did in the hospital. Here, she was reliable. Here, she showed up. She moved toward the scrub sink, already running through protocols in her mind. Check airway, breathing, circulation, control hemorrhaging, assess for internal bleeding. The rhythm of emergency medicine was a language she spoke fluently now, more fluently than she'd ever spoken with her own family. The water ran hot over her hands. Maya pumped soap from the dispenser, that industrial pink stuff that smelled like fake flowers and chemical warfare. As she scrubbed between her fingers, she caught her reflection in the small mirror above the sink. 31 years old. Dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide anymore. Hair pulled back in a bun so tight it gave her headaches, but anything else was a liability in the ER. A small scar on her left cheek from where she'd fallen off her bike at age 10, and nobody had been home to take her to get stitches. Because they'd been at Lily's dance recital, the scar had healed crooked. Maya blinked, and for just a moment she saw someone else in the mirror. Someone older. Someone dying. The water scalded her hands. She yanked them back, gasping. "You okay?" Marcus appeared at her elbow. "Fine. Water's too hot." "Temperature's the same as always?" He gave her that look. The one people gave her when they thought she was working too hard. Burning out. "You heading for a breakdown?" Maya had seen that look a lot in the past year. The ambulance sirens wailed outside, growing closer. "Let's go," she said, and didn't look at the mirror again. The first patient was a 16-year-old boy with a tension pneumothorax and a Glasgow coma scale of 8. Maya's hands moved on autopilot, needle decompression, tube thoracostomy, fluids running wide open. The boy's mother stood outside the trauma bay screaming his name. Jeremy, baby, please." Maya had heard that exact tone of voice before, the pitch of a mother's love when death was in the room. She'd heard it in her own mother's throat once, but not for her. "Breath sounds equal bilaterally," she announced. "Heart rate dropping to 110. He's stabilizing." The collective exhale from the trauma team was audible. A. Marcus was already wheeling in the second patient, a woman in her 50s with a suspected spinal injury and facial trauma so severe they'd need plastics to consult. Maya worked through the night. 3 critical patients became 2, became 1, became none. By 4 a.m., the ER had quieted to its usual low hum, the beep of monitors, the whisper of nurses at the station, the occasional moan from behind a curtain. She sat in the break room with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The room was small, painted that specific shade of beige that existed only in hospitals and DMV offices. Someone had put up motivational posters, a kitten hanging from a tree branch, hang in there, and a sunset over a beach. Every day is a new beginning. Maya stared at the beach poster and felt nothing. Her phone buzzed. She knew who it was before she looked. Mom. The party was beautiful. Lily loved her cake. Where did you end up getting it? The princess looked perfect. Maya's thumb hovered over the keyboard. She could explain. Could say she'd been the one to pick it up, to drive it across town in the middle of her shift, to stand in the rain like an idiot because she'd parked in the wrong lot. Could mention that she'd ruined her white coat and would have to pay for a replacement. She deleted the message thread and set her phone face down on the table. The coffee tasted like cardboard when she finally sipped it. Outside the break room window, dawn was starting to break, that gray-purple light that came before sunrise when the world held its breath. Long night. Dr. Patterson, the attending physician, leaned against the doorframe. He was in his 60s, with the kind of gray hair that looked distinguished instead of old, and eyes that had seen too many bodies on tables. They're all long, Maya said. He moved into the room, poured himself a cup of the same terrible coffee. You saved that kid's life tonight, Jeremy Bosch. He's going to walk out of here in a few weeks and go to his junior prom and probably forget he almost died on I-95. That's the goal? It is. Patterson sat down across from her. But sometimes I wonder if we forget to save ourselves while we're busy saving everyone else. Maya looked at him. Is this an intervention? It's a conversation. He wrapped his hands around his mug. You've worked 7 doubles this month, Chen. You're here more than you're home. You volunteer for every holiday shift. You're an excellent doctor. Tina, but you're running yourself into the ground. I like being here. More than being anywhere else. The question hung in the air between them. Maya opened her mouth to answer, but her pager went off. Code blue, room 304. She was on her feet before Patterson could say another word. Room 304 was Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, 87 years old, admitted 3 days ago with pneumonia. Maya had seen her chart, DNR, DNI clearly marked, family had been called, daughter was driving in from Boston. But the code had been called anyway because a new nurse had panicked, and now Maya was doing chest compressions on a woman who had explicitly said she wanted to die peacefully, while alarms shrieked and the code team crowded around the bed. Stop, Maya said. Nobody heard her. Stop. Louder this time, authoritative. Hoa, the kind of voice that cut through chaos, the respiratory therapist paused mid-squeeze on the ambu bag. She's a DNR, Maya said. Check the chart? Silence. Someone flipped through the pages, and Maya saw the color drain from the new nurse's face when she found the order. Everyone out, Maya said quietly, except you. She pointed to the nurse. You stay. The room cleared. Maya stood beside Mrs. Whitmore's bed and felt for a pulse she knew wasn't there. The woman's eyes were half open, clouded over. Her mouth hung slack. On the bedside table, there was a framed photo of her as a young woman, impossibly beautiful in a red dress, laughing at something the camera couldn't capture. The nurse was crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just saw her crashing and You did what you thought was right, Maya said, still looking at Mrs. B. Whitmore. But part of this job is honoring what our patients want, even when it goes against every instinct we have. She reached over and closed Mrs. Whitmore's eyes. The gesture was gentle, practiced. She'd done this too many times. Her daughter should have been here, the nurse whispered. Yes, Maya agreed, she should have been. But Maya knew how it went. The daughter had promised to visit Tuesday, but work had been crazy. Then she'd said definitely Friday, but there was that thing with her son's school. She'd call later. She'd come next weekend. There was always time, until suddenly there wasn't. Maya had seen it play out in 100 different rooms with 100 different families. The ones who said they'd visit, the ones who meant to call, the ones who thought there would be more time. She pulled the sheet up over Mrs. De Whitmore's face and started the paperwork. The sun was fully up by the time Maya's shift ended at 7 a.m. She walked to her car through the hospital parking lot, past the spot where she'd stood in the rain with Lily's cake. The asphalt had dried in uneven patches, and the morning air smelled like fresh-cut grass and car exhaust. Her apartment was a 15-minute drive away, a studio in a complex called Riverside Terrace, which was neither by a river nor particularly terraced. She'd chosen it because it was close to the hospital, and the rent was cheap, and she'd never bothered to make it feel like home. The walls were still the landlord's white. The furniture was basic, IKEA stuff she'd assembled wrong so the drawers didn't quite close. There were no photos on the walls, no plants by the window. Just medical journals stacked on the coffee table and a calendar full of shift schedules. Maya dropped her bag by the door and went straight to the bathroom. She turned the shower as hot as it would go and stood under the spray until her skin turned pink, trying to wash off the smell of the hospital. It never quite worked. The scent lingered in her hair, under her nails, in the creases of her skin. When she finally stepped out, the bathroom was thick with steam. She wiped the mirror with her palm, creating a clear circle in the fog. Her face stared back at her. 31. Successful. A doctor. Everything she'd worked for. So why did she feel like she was drowning? Maya wrapped herself in a towel and moved to her bedroom. She should sleep. She had another shift in 12 hours, and she needed at least 6 hours of rest to function properly. But sleep had been difficult lately. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw faces. Patients who'd died. Patients who'd lived. Mrs. Whitmore with her clouded eyes. And behind them all, a memory she couldn't quite grasp, like trying to remember a dream that faded the moment you woke up. She lay down on top of the covers and stared at the ceiling. The apartment was too quiet. She could hear her neighbor's TV through the wall, some morning talk show with artificial laughter. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Lily. OMG, thank you for the cake. It was perfect. Mom said you picked it up. You're the best big sis ever. Maya read the message 3 times. Lily hadn't known she'd picked up the cake. Of course she hadn't. Mom had probably claimed credit, or Lily hadn't asked. Why would she? Lily was 15 now, at that age where the world revolved around her and her friends and her birthday parties. Maya was about to delete the message when another one came through. Lily. Everyone loved it. I'm posting pics. I'll tag you. A minute later, Instagram notifications started flooding in. Photos of Lily with her friends, with Mom and Dad, with the cake, that perfect pink princess cake with its fondant flowers and sugar crystals that caught the light. In one photo, Lily was blowing out the candles. 15 of them, arranged in a circle. The flash caught the moment right as she extinguished them, smoke curling up from the wicks. Mom and Dad stood behind her, Dad's hand on her shoulder, Mom beaming with pride. Maya scrolled through the photos. There were maybe 30 of them. Not a single one included her. She set the phone down and closed her eyes. Sleep didn't come. Instead, memories did. Fragments and flashes, like a film reel with missing scenes. She was 8 years old, wearing her elementary school graduation gown. It was too long and she kept stepping on the hem. She'd practiced her valedictorian speech for weeks, memorizing every word because she wanted Mom and Dad to be proud. The ceremony was at 6 p.m. Lily's party started at 6:30. We'll make it to both, Mom had promised. We'll just leave the graduation early. But they hadn't come at all. Maya had stood on that stage and delivered her speech to a gym full of parents except hers. The principal had to drive her home afterward because nobody had answered when they called her parents' cell phones. She'd arrived home to find the house full of pink balloons and screaming 8-year-olds. Mom had rushed over, distracted, and said, "Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. We lost track of time. Did it go well? Tell me later. I need to get the pizza." Later never came. Maya opened her eyes. The ceiling fan spun lazily overhead, making a clicking sound that meant the blade was loose. She'd been meaning to fix it for months. She sat up, feeling restless, feeling something crawling under her skin that she couldn't name. In the kitchen, she made tea she didn't want and toast she wouldn't eat. The bread was stale because she was never home long enough to go grocery shopping. She scraped butter across the surface anyway, watching it tear. Her phone rang. Not a text this time. An actual call. Dad. Maya stared at the screen, watching his name flash. She could count on one hand the number of times he'd called her in the past year. Usually, communication went through Mom, who texted in bursts of emojis and vague plans that never materialized. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Pumpkin," Dad said, and the old nickname made something in her chest contract. He hadn't called her that since high school. "How are you doing?" "Fine, just got off shift." Right. You work too much, you know that?" Maya didn't respond. Listen, Dad continued, your mom told me you got Lily's cake. That was really nice of you, going out of your way like that. It wasn't out of my way. Well, still, she really appreciated it. A pause. We all did, Maya poked at her toast. Glad she had a good party. She did. You should have come by. It would have meant a lot to her. The words were out before she could stop them. I was working. Someone had to save the kid who almost died in a car crash on her birthday. Silence on the other end. Right, Dad said finally. Well, that's important work you do. Yeah. Another pause, longer this time. Maya could hear sounds in the background. Mom saying something, dishes clattering, the normal sounds of a house where people actually lived. Your mom wants to know if you're coming for dinner Sunday, Dad said. It's been a while since we've seen you. I have a shift Sunday. You have a shift every day, Maya. The sharpness in his voice surprised her. Dad never got sharp. He was the easygoing one, the peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over conflicts and told jokes to diffuse tension. I can't help when I'm scheduled, Maya said. Oh, you could trade shifts. You could ask for time off. You're a doctor, not an indentured servant. I like my job. Do you? The question was soft, but landed hard. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're hiding. Maya's grip tightened on the phone. I'm not hiding. I'm building a career. At the expense of everything else. Not everyone gets to coast through life, Dad. Some of us have to work for what we want. She regretted it immediately, but the words were already out there, hanging in the air like smoke. Maya, I have to go. I need to sleep before my next shift. Pumpkin, wait. She hung up. The silence in her apartment was deafening. Maya sat at her kitchen table, really just a card table with folding chairs, and stared at her cold toast. Outside her window, she could see the parking lot, the dumpsters. A tree that was trying very hard to grow despite the concrete surrounding it. Her hands were shaking. She'd spent 15 years building walls, and in one conversation, Dad had found a crack. The thing was, he wasn't wrong. She was hiding. Hiding in 60-hour work weeks and double shifts, and being the doctor who never said no to covering for someone else. Hiding in the certainty of protocols and procedures, in the clear hierarchy of medicine where she knew exactly what was expected. At the hospital, she was valued. She was necessary. She was seen. At home, she was the daughter who'd moved out at 18 and barely looked back. The one who sent perfunctory birthday cards and showed up for major holidays if her schedule allowed. The one who everyone had learned to stop counting on because she was always working. But what else was she supposed to do? Go to Sunday dinners and watch Lily be the center of attention? Watch Mom and Dad beam at her accomplishments, making honor roll, getting the lead in the school play, being invited to the popular girls' parties? Maya had made honor roll too. She'd graduated valedictorian. She'd gotten a full scholarship to college and then to medical school. And she'd done it all without anyone watching, without anyone proud, without anyone caring enough to show up. So, yes, maybe she was hiding, but at least in her hiding place, she was somebody. Her phone buzzed again. She ignored it. Instead, she got up and walked to her bedroom closet, pushing aside her scrubs and white coats until she found the box in the back. It was an old shoebox from Nike, the cardboard worn soft at the corners. She'd moved it from apartment to apartment, always unpacking at last, always shoving it into the darkest corner of the closet. Maya sat on her bed and opened the lid. Inside were the artifacts of a childhood spent trying to be seen. Elementary school art projects that had never made it onto the fridge, report cards full of A's that nobody had signed. A trophy from the 7th grade science fair, first place, still in its plastic wrapping because nobody had been home when she'd gotten it, and by the time they noticed, weeks had passed and it felt weird to celebrate. At the bottom of the box was a photo. Maya in her high school graduation gown, standing alone in front of the ceremony backdrop. The photographer had asked, "Do you want to wait for your family?" And Maya had smiled and said, "They're running late. I'll just do a solo one." They'd been at Lily's dance recital. A very important one, apparently. Regional competition or something. Maya had gotten into Harvard Medical School that same day. The acceptance email had come through during the ceremony, and she'd read it on her phone while sitting in a row of other graduates, all of them surrounded by cheering families. She'd walked across that stage and received her diploma and driven herself home and told her parents at midnight when they finally got back, and Mom had hugged her and said, "That's wonderful, honey," before yawning and heading to bed because Lily's competition had been exhausting. Maya closed the box and shoved it back into the closet. Her hands were still shaking. She needed sleep. She needed to get her shit together. The room tilted. Maya grabbed the edge of her dresser, but the world kept spinning, kept tilting, kept sliding sideways like a broken carnival ride. Her vision blurred. Her chest felt tight, too tight, like someone was standing on her ribs. I'm having a heart attack, she thought distantly. This is how it ends. Alone in a studio apartment, surrounded by nothing that matters. She tried to reach for her phone, but her legs gave out. She hit the floor hard, the impact jarring her teeth. The ceiling fan spun above her, click, click, clicking, and she thought about how she'd never fixed it. How there were so many things she'd meant to do but never got around to because she was always at the hospital, always working, always trying to prove something to people who weren't even watching. The pain in her chest sharpened. Maya gasped, struggling for air that wouldn't come. This is it, she thought. This is how I die. And nobody will find me until I don't show up for my shift, and they'll send someone to check on me, and I'll be another tragedy the ER staff talks about in hushed voices between patients. The room grew darker at the edges. Or maybe her vision was going. Hard to tell. She thought about Mrs. Whitmore, dying alone while her daughter was too busy to visit. She thought about all the patients she'd saved, all the lives she'd preserved, all the families she'd kept intact. And she thought about her own family, 20 minutes away, who wouldn't know she was dying until it was too late, because she'd trained them not to expect her, not to count on her, not to even think about her unless they needed something. The darkness crept in further. Maya closed her eyes and waited for it to end. The smell hit her first, vanilla and cinnamon and something burning. Maya's eyes flew open. She was lying on a floor, but not her apartment floor. This one was wooden, scuffed with age, covered in a rug she recognized from somewhere she couldn't quite place. The ceiling above her wasn't the landlord's white with the broken fan, but a soft blue with glow-in-the-dark stars stuck haphazardly across it. She sat up slowly, her head spinning. The room was small and messy in the way only a child's room could be. Clothes spilling out of a hamper, books stacked precariously on a too-small desk, posters on the walls of bands and movies from... Maya's breath caught. From 15 years ago. She looked down at herself. Her hands were smaller, smoother. No calluses from years of washing them raw in hospital sinks. No scars from that time she'd slipped with a scalpel during her surgical rotation. She scrambled to her feet and stumbled to the mirror over the dresser. A 16-year-old face stared back at her. Maya opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. She touched her face, her younger face, with better skin and wider eyes, and that uncertainty that came from being 16 and not knowing anything about who you'd become. Maya, a voice called from downstairs. Breakfast is ready. Don't be late for school, Mom's voice, but younger, without the tired edge it had developed over the years. Maya's legs gave out again, but this time she caught herself on the dresser. Her heart was racing, but not like before, not like dying, like waking up. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. She was having a stroke or a psychotic break, or she was actually dead and this was some kind of afterlife, or Maya, now! She moved on autopilot, her body remembering even if her mind was screaming. Down the stairs, these specific stairs with the creaky third step and the banister that wobbled. Through the hallway with family photos on the walls, except in these photos, everyone was younger. Lily was only 8, and Maya was still here. The kitchen smelled like it had in the memory, burning pancakes and vanilla coffee, and Mom's specific brand of chaos when she tried to cook. Mom stood at the stove, wearing a bathrobe and fighting with a spatula, her hair up in a messy bun. She looked so young. Finally, Mom said without turning around. I swear, getting you up in the mornings is like raising the dead. Grab some orange juice from the fridge. Maya stood frozen in the doorway. Maya, hello? Juice? She moved mechanically to the fridge. Her hands, these small, unscarred hands, pulled out the orange juice. A plastic jug from the grocery store, half full. She poured it into a glass that said, World's Best Dad, and had a cartoon golf club on it. Lily's already at the table, Mom said, flipping a pancake that was definitely too dark on one side. Tell her to stop scrolling on her phone. Breakfast is family time. Maya walked to the dining room like she was moving through water. Lily sat at the table in her pajamas, pink with cartoon cats on them, her face illuminated by the glow of an iPhone 4. She was 8 years old, gap-toothed, hair in 2 braids that Mom had clearly done in a hurry. Morning, Lily said without looking up. Maya sat down across from her and stared. This was wrong. All of this was wrong. Lily was 15. Lily had just had a birthday party with a pink princess cake and 30 Instagram photos. Lily was in high school, not elementary school, not 8 years old, not sitting here in cat pajamas playing on a phone that was ancient by current standards. You're staring, Lily said, finally glancing up. It's weird. Sorry, Maya heard herself say. Dad walked in, newspaper under his arm, coffee mug in hand. He had more hair, fewer lines around his eyes. He was wearing his work clothes, business casual because he hadn't retired yet, hadn't had the heart attack that would come in 3 years and force him into early retirement. Morning, Pumpkin, he said, ruffling Maya's hair as he passed. The nickname hit her like a physical blow. Morning, she whispered. Mom brought over a platter of pancakes, some burnt, some raw in the middle, all of them made with love and incompetence. She plopped 2 on Maya's plate and 3 on Lily's. Big day at school? Dad asked, settling into his chair with the newspaper. Maya's mind was blank. What day was this? What year? What? It's fine, she said. Just fine? Mom settled into her own chair with a mug of coffee that said Queen of the Kitchen, despite all evidence to the contrary. No tests, no projects, no drama. No drama, Lily snorted. That's because you don't have friends to have drama with. Lily, Dad said mildly, be nice. I'm just saying, Maya's idea of excitement is finishing homework early. It was a casual cruelty, the kind sisters lobbed at each other without thinking. But it landed like it always had, right in the center of Maya's chest. She looked at her plate. The pancakes swam in syrup she didn't remember pouring. So, Lily, Mom said brightly, clearly trying to change the subject. Are you excited for your party this weekend? Lily's whole face lit up. Yes. Can we go to the store after school today? I want to show you the exact decorations I want. Absolutely. We'll make a whole afternoon of it. Maya's fork clattered against her plate. Everyone looked at her. You okay, honey? Mom asked. Maya stared at her mother. Really stared. At this younger version who hadn't yet learned to ignore her, who hadn't yet defaulted to focusing all her attention on Lily. This was before the pattern had solidified. Before Maya had learned that love in this family was conditional on being easy, being fun, well, being Lily. When's my graduation? Maya asked. Mom blinked. What? My 8th grade graduation. When is it? Oh, Mom glanced at Dad. When is it, honey? June 15th, Maya said. 6 p.m. I'm giving a speech. I'm valedictorian. That's wonderful. Mom's smile was genuine, if distracted. We're so proud of you. Lily's party is June 15th at 6:30 p.m. The silence that fell over the table was different this time. Well, Mom said slowly, we'll figure it out. How? Maya's voice was calm. Too calm. 15 years of medical training had taught her to keep her voice level even when everything inside was screaming. How will you figure it out? The graduation is an hour long. Lily's party starts 30 minutes after it begins. You can't be in 2 places at once. Maya, Dad set down his newspaper. We'll work something out. Maybe the party can start a little later. No, Lily's face crumpled. It's my birthday. All my friends are coming at 6:30. We planned it. And I've been planning my speech for 2 months, Maya said. I'm the valedictorian. The principal specifically asked me to speak. Can't someone record it? Lily asked. Then they can watch it later. The casualness of it, the assumption that Maya's achievement could be condensed into a recording, tucked away to be consumed at their convenience, hit Maya like a scalpel between the ribs. But this time, she knew how it ended. She'd lived this already. She knew that she'd back down, apologize, say it was fine, that Mom and Dad would promise to try to make it, that they'd get caught up in party preparations, that she'd deliver her speech to a gym full of parents except hers. And she knew that it was the first of many times she'd be asked to make herself smaller, quieter, less demanding, because Lily's needs were always louder, always more immediate, always more important. Unless she changed it. Maya pushed back from the table and stood. What are you doing? Mom asked. Going to school. But you haven't finished breakfast. I'm not hungry. She walked out of the dining room, up the stairs, into her teenage bedroom with its glow-in-the-dark stars and messy floors. Her backpack was on the desk, a Jansport she'd forgotten she owned, worn at the corners and covered in doodles. Maya picked it up and stopped. This was real. Somehow, impossibly, this was real. She was 16 years old again, standing in her childhood bedroom with the chance to do it all differently. She could walk back downstairs and apologize. Could smooth it over. Could be the easy daughter, the one who didn't make waves, the one who everyone could ignore because she never demanded attention. Or she could be someone else entirely. Maya opened her desk drawer. Inside was a folder full of schoolwork. Tests with 100% written in red, essays with glowing comments, a letter from her guidance counselor about AP classes. She pulled out a blank sheet of paper and started writing. 10 minutes later, she walked back downstairs. Mom and Dad were still at the table, talking in low voices. They stopped when they saw her. "I'm sorry," Maya said, and she meant it. Not sorry for standing up for herself, but sorry for what was about to come. "I shouldn't have snapped." Mom's face relaxed. "Oh, honey, it's okay. We know you're stressed about graduation." "I am," Maya interrupted gently. "Which is why I wanted to give you this." She handed her mother the paper. Mom unfolded it and read aloud. June 15th, 6 p.m., Lawrence Middle School, 8th grade graduation ceremony, Maya Chen, valedictorian speech at 6:45 p.m. She looked up. "What is this?" "A reminder," Maya said. "I put it on the fridge too, and I'm going to email it to both of you. Because I need you to be there. Not record it, not try to make it. Be there." "Of course we'll." "No promises," Maya said. "I need a yes or a no." "Will you be there?" Dad exchanged a glance with Mom. "Maya, it's not that simple. Lily's party can start later, or you can move it to Saturday. But this is my 8th grade graduation, and I'm asking you. I'm not begging. I'm asking to be there." The silence stretched out. Finally, Dad said, "We'll be there." "Jim," Mom started. "We'll move Lily's party," Dad said firmly, "to Saturday." Maya's right. This is important. Lily, who had been watching from the doorway, burst into tears. "But all my friends are coming Friday. I already sent the invitations." "Then we'll send new ones," Dad said. "I'm sorry, Lilybean, but your sister is right. We need to be at her graduation." Maya waited for the guilt to hit, for the old instinct to kick in, the one that said, "It's fine, don't make them choose, don't be difficult." But all she felt was tired. "Thank you," she said quietly, and walked out the front door to catch the bus to school. The school bus was exactly as she remembered it, yellow and smelling like old vinyl and someone's forgotten lunch. Maya found a seat near the back and pressed her forehead against the cool window. Her mind was racing. This was real. She was 16 again. She had somehow been given a second chance, sent back to the year she'd turned 16, and she was going to have to relive high school, college, medical school, all of it. But she wouldn't have to make the same mistakes. She wouldn't have to spend years trying to earn love from people who'd already decided where to distribute it. Wouldn't have to work herself to death trying to prove she was worth their attention. Wouldn't have to stand in the rain with a ruined cake for a sister who didn't even know she'd been there. Maya pulled out her phone, that ancient iPhone 4 with its tiny screen and home button, and stared at it. No medical journals saved. No shift schedules, no emergency contacts for the hospital. Instead, there was a text thread with someone named Sarah, full of messages about homework, and some boy named Derek. Maya had no memory of Sarah, no memory of Derek. High school had been a blur of studying and extracurriculars, of building the perfect resume for college applications, of doing everything she could to be exceptional enough that her parents would have to notice. She scrolled further back in her messages. There, a group chat called The Forsaken with 3 other names. Sarah, Marcus, not the nurse, different Marcus, and someone called Jazz. The last message was from Jazz. "Study group at my place 4 p.m. Brings snacks and low expectations." That had been yesterday, apparently. Maya typed, "I'll be there." Her phone buzzed immediately. Jazz. "Whoa, she lives. I thought you'd been body snatched by the grade grubbers." "Sarah, be nice, Jazz." "I am being nice. If I wasn't being nice, I'd mention that time she literally cried because she got an A- Marcus. That was one time, and it was AP Calc, and the teacher had it out for her. Sarah, everyone has had it out for everyone according to Marcus Maya. I didn't cry, Jazz. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. My friend Maya stared at the thread. These people knew her. This version of her. The 16-year-old who cried over A-minuses and stressed about AP classes, and apparently had friends she'd completely forgotten about in the years since. The bus lurched to a stop at the school. Students poured off, a river of teenagers in their best attempt at style, using dress code-appropriate clothing. Maya followed them, her body moving on muscle memory through doors she'd walked through before. Lawrence High School, home of the Lions. She'd spent 2 years here before graduating early, before college, before everything. Maya. She turned. A girl with curly red hair and more freckles than skin was waving at her. Sarah, presumably. Behind her was a tall, lanky boy with dark skin and a physics textbook under his arm, Marcus, and a short, stocky person with a shaved head and multiple ear piercings, Jazz. "Hey," Maya said, and it came out rusty. She'd forgotten how to have friends. "Did you do the chem homework?" Sarah fell into step beside her. "Because I totally spaced and now I'm screwed." Yes? Can I copy your answers at lunch?" "Sarah, that's cheating," Marcus said. "It's collaborative learning," Sarah corrected. It's plagiarism." "It's survival?" They bickered as they walked down the hallway, and Maya let the noise wash over her. It was strange. She'd forgotten this, forgotten what it was like to have people who expected her, who sought her out, who treated her presence as normal and necessary rather than optional. When had she lost this? The answer came immediately. She'd walked away from it. From them. She'd graduated early, left for college at 17, and never looked back. Too focused on the future, on becoming someone her parents would be proud of, to notice she was leaving behind the people who actually cared about her. "You okay?" Jazz was studying her with sharp eyes. "You're being weird." "I'm fine." See, that's what someone who's not fine says. "I'm serious." "Maya Chen!" A voice boomed down the hallway. Maya turned to see Mr. Kowalski, her AP chemistry teacher, bearing down on them. He was a large man who coached football and taught chemistry with equal enthusiasm, which meant a lot of shouting and occasionally lighting things on fire. "I need to talk to you about your independent study proposal," he said. "My classroom now." "But homeroom." "I'll write you a pass. Come on." Sarah made a face that said, "Good luck," and Maya followed Mr. Kowalski to his classroom. It smelled like sulfur and old socks, with periodic tables plastered across every available wall. "Sit," he commanded, pointing to a lab stool. Maya sat. Mr. Kowalski settled his bulk against his desk and crossed his arms. "Your proposal for independent study next semester." I read it. Maya's mind raced. What proposal? She had no memory of. "You want to design a research project on antibiotic-resistant bacteria?" Mr. Kowalski continued. "Use the school lab, partner with that microbiology professor at State, potentially submit your findings to the youth science competition." Oh, right. She'd done this. She'd spent her junior year spring semester working on a research project that had eventually won her a scholarship. It had been one of the things on her college applications that set her apart. "And?" Maya asked. "And it's ambitious as hell." "I love it," he grinned. "But you're going to need help. This isn't a one-person project. You need a team." "I can do it alone." "You could," Mr. Kowalski agreed. "But you shouldn't. Science is collaborative. Medicine is collaborative." "If you're serious about this career, and I know you are, because you've talked my ear off about pre-med tracks, you need to learn how to work with people." Maya opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. In her first life, she'd done the project alone. She'd worked 16-hour days in the school lab, refusing help, refusing collaboration, because asking for help felt like weakness. She'd succeeded, but she'd been exhausted, burnt out before she even got to college. And she'd done the same thing in medical school, in residency, in her career, refusing to ask for help, taking on more than she could handle, proving she didn't need anyone. Look where that had gotten her. "Okay," she said quietly. Mr. Kowalski blinked. "Okay, just like that? No argument about how you work better alone?" "I'm trying something new." "Good." He pulled out a folder. I've already got 3 other students interested in joining. 2 seniors and a junior. Smart kids. You'd be the lead researcher since it's your project, but they'd help with data collection and analysis." "Who are they?" "David Martinez, Emily Huang, and..." He consulted his notes. "Your friend Marcus Johnson. He came to me specifically asking to be on your team." Something warm uncurled in Maya's chest. Marcus had wanted to work with her, had sought it out, had believed in her project enough to join without her even asking. "Yeah," she said. That sounds good. Mr. Kowalski handed her the folder. First meeting is next week. In the meantime, start refining your hypothesis. And Maya? Yes? Don't try to do everything yourself. That's not strength, it's just stubbornness. The bell rang. Maya stood, clutching the folder, and headed to homeroom. The day passed in a blur of classes she'd taken before, lessons she'd already learned, social dynamics she'd forgotten. She watched her younger self's life unfold around her. The cliques and drama, the pop quizzes and pep rallies, the thousands of tiny moments that had seemed so important at 16 and so insignificant at 31. But now, with the knowledge of everything that would come after, she could see it differently. Could see the teacher who always stayed after class to help struggling students, who would write a recommendation letter that would help her get into Harvard. Could see the quiet girl in her English class who would go on to become a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. Could see the patterns of her own behavior, always studying, always achieving, always alone. At lunch, she sat with Sarah, Marcus, and Jazz in their usual spot by the windows. They talked about nothing important. Weekend plans, upcoming tests, the rumor that the cafeteria was serving something called Mystery Meets Surprise. Maya ate her sandwich and listened and felt, for the first time in years, like she was somewhere she belonged. So, Jazz said, stealing a chip from Marcus's tray, your sister's birthday party got moved, huh? Maya looked up sharply. How did you know that? Your mom called my mom asking for catering recommendations for Saturday instead of Friday. My mom does cakes, remember? Oh, right. Lily was apparently very upset about it, Jazz continued. My mom said your mom sounded stressed. Good, Maya said, and the word came out harder than she intended. Her friends exchanged glances. Okay, Sarah said slowly. Well, what happened? Nothing happened. Maya. Marcus set down his sandwich. We've been friends since 6th grade. I know when something happened. Maya stared at her lunch tray. She could brush it off, could make a joke, could redirect the conversation to safer topics, or she could tell the truth. They were going to skip my graduation, she said quietly, for Lily's party, and I told them no. Silence. Shit, Jazz said finally. And they're going. To your graduation? Sarah asked. Dad said they would. Said they'd move the party. Good. Marcus's voice was firm. They should. You're the valedictorian. They need to be there. But now Lily's upset, and Mom's stressed, and it's not your problem, Jazz interrupted. You asked for one thing. One reasonable thing? They're your parents. They should have figured this out without you having to fight for it. Maya looked at Jazz, at this person who barely came up to her shoulder, but had more confidence than anyone she knew. You think so? I know so, and honestly, it's about time you stood up for yourself. We've been waiting for this since, forever. What do you mean? Sarah leaned forward. Maya, you're our friend, and we love you, but you have this thing where you just accept being treated badly, especially by your family. I don't. You do, Marcus said gently. Remember last year when your parents forgot your birthday because they were at that thing for Lily, and you said it was fine? Or when they didn't come to the science fair even though you won first place? Sarah added. Or literally any school event you've ever been in, Jazz finished. We've noticed. And we just didn't know how to say anything. Maya felt something crack open in her chest. These people, these teenagers who she'd dismissed as footnotes in her history, had seen her, had noticed, had cared. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't apologize, Jazz said. Just keep standing up for yourself, okay? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. The conversation shifted to safer topics, but Maya's mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the next 15 years, about all the choices she'd made, about the person she'd become. She'd thought she was running towards something, success, achievement, proving her worth. But really, she'd been running away. Away from a family that didn't see her, away from friends who did, away from herself. But now she had a second chance, and she wasn't going to waste it. The week passed. Maya attended classes. We worked on her research proposal, studied for tests she'd already taken once before. It was strange, holding two timelines in her head, the one she'd lived and the one she was living now. Friday arrived, June 15th, graduation day. Maya woke up early and stared at the ceiling, at those glow-in-the-dark stars she'd stuck up there when she was 12. In her first life, she'd woken up on this day with a knot in her stomach, knowing her parents probably wouldn't come but hoping anyway. This time, she felt calmer, Whatever happened, she'd survive it. She'd survived worse. She got up, showered, put on the white dress Mom had bought her weeks ago. Simple, appropriate, forgettable. The kind of dress that said, "I won't cause trouble." Downstairs, Mom was making pancakes again. They were slightly less burnt this time. "Morning?" "Honey." Mom was aggressively cheerful. "Big day." "Yeah." "Your father is picking up your grandparents. They're so excited to see you give your speech." Maya paused, fork halfway to her mouth. "Grandma and Grandpa are coming?" "Of course. Did you think we wouldn't tell them? This is a huge accomplishment." In the first timeline, her grandparents hadn't come. Maya had assumed they hadn't been invited. "What about Lily?" she asked carefully. Mom's smile flickered. "She's staying with the Hendersons. We'll have her party tomorrow, and she'll have more time with her friends anyway." "Is she upset?" "A little, but she'll be fine." Mom set down a plate of bacon. "Your father and I talked, and we realized we've been letting things slide. With you, we've been so focused on Lily because she's younger, because she needs more attention." "Whoa, but that's not fair to you." Maya stared at her mother. "You've always been so independent," Mom continued. "So capable. You never complained, never asked for anything, so we just assumed you were fine. But that was wrong of us. You deserve to have us show up too." It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't erase years of being overlooked. But it was something. "Thank you," Maya said. Mom reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "We're proud of you. I know we don't say it enough, but we are." Lawrence Middle School's gym was packed by 5:45 p.m. Families filled the bleachers, holding cameras and flowers and handmade signs. The 8th grade class sat in rows of folding chairs on the gymnasium floor, wearing their caps and gowns, fidgeting with nervous energy. Maya sat in the front row with the other honor students. Her speech was folded in her pocket, though she'd memorized it weeks ago. She scanned the crowd, looking for familiar faces. There, 3rd row up. Dad, Mom, Grandma, and Grandpa. Dad caught her eye and waved. Mom was wiping her eyes even though nothing had happened yet. They'd come. They'd actually come. Maya felt something warm and painful expanding in her chest. This was such a small thing, such a basic thing. Parents attending their child's graduation. But for her, in this moment, it was everything. The ceremony began. The principal gave a speech about futures and potential and all the usual platitudes. The choir sang, awards were distributed. Then it was time for the valedictorian speech. "And now," the principal said, "I'd like to invite our class valedictorian, Maya Chen, to say a few words." Maya walked to the podium on legs that felt steadier than they had the first time. The gym was silent except for the rustle of programs and the occasional cough. She unfolded her speech, looked out at the sea of faces, and began. "When I was asked to give this speech, I spent weeks trying to figure out what to say. What wisdom could I possibly share? We're 14 years old, we barely know anything." A ripple of laughter. "But then I realized that's exactly the point. We don't know what's coming. We don't know who we'll become, what paths we'll take, what challenges we'll face, and that's terrifying. But it's also beautiful." Maya glanced up. Her mother was crying. Her father had his arm around her. "We're standing at the edge of everything. High school, college, careers, life. And the most important thing I can tell you is this. Don't be afraid to ask for what you need. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Don't shrink yourself to make other people comfortable." She was going off script now, saying words her 16-year-old self hadn't written. "And for the people who love us, parents, teachers, friends, I want to say this. See us. Really see us. Not who you think we are or who you want us to be, but who we actually are. Because the greatest gift you can give someone is to witness them, to show up, to be there." Maya folded her speech and looked directly at her parents. "Thank you for being here," she said, and she wasn't talking to the entire audience anymore. Just to them. "It means more than you know." The gym erupted in applause. Maya walked back to her seat in a daze. The rest of the ceremony was a blur. Diplomas handed out, caps thrown in the air, the traditional chaos of families trying to find their graduate in the crowd. And then Mom and Dad were there, pulling her into a hug that smelled like Mom's perfume and Dad's aftershave, and Grandma was crying, and Grandpa was talking about how proud he was. And for once, for this one moment, Maya was the center of their world. "Your speech was beautiful," Mom whispered in her ear. "When did you change it?" "Just now." "It was perfect." They took photos. So many photos. Maya in her cap and gown, Maya with her parents, Maya with her grandparents, Maya with the diploma she'd earned. Evidence that this had happened, that they'd been here, that it mattered. As they left the gym, Maya caught sight of Sarah, Marcus, and Jazz with their own families. Jazz waved, and Maya waved back, feeling something settle into place. This was what it was supposed to feel like. Being seen, being valued, being enough. The summer between sophomore and junior year stretched out like an exhale. Without the pressure of constant achievement driving her, Maya found herself doing things she'd never done the first time around. Hanging out with friends just because, reading books that weren't on any curriculum, sleeping. The research project started in earnest in July. Mr. Kowalski had secured access to a proper lab at State University, and Maya's team met 3 times a week to work on their antibiotic resistance study. "Hand me the petri dish," Emily Huang said, adjusting her safety goggles. Maya passed it over and watched as Emily carefully transferred bacterial samples. David Martinez was at the computer, logging data. Oh, while Marcus prepared the next round of cultures. "This is going way faster than I thought it would," Marcus commented. "Having 4 people makes such a difference." "Told you," Mr. Kowalski said from his spot by the door. He'd been supervising their sessions, making sure they didn't accidentally create super bacteria and doom humanity. "Collaboration works," Maya smiled. He was right. In her first timeline, this project had taken her 6 months of solo work. With the team, they'd completed in 3. But more than that, it was fun. Working with people who were excited about the same things, who brought different skills and perspectives, who shared the load when it got heavy. This was what she'd been missing. "Hey," David said, looking up from the computer. "We should celebrate when we finish. Do something fun." "Define fun," Emily said. I don't know. Go-karts? Escape room? Something that doesn't involve bacteria?" "Blasphemy," Marcus declared. "Bacteria are fascinating. You're spending too much time in the lab. There's no such thing." They bickered good-naturedly, and Maya felt herself relax into it, into this space where she was part of something, not carrying everything alone. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Dinner at 6:30? Please try to make it." Maya checked the time. It was 4 p.m. They'd planned to work until 7, but "I need to head out early today," she said. "Family dinner." "Ooh, family dinner," Jazz, who had started hanging around the lab even though they weren't on the team, mostly to steal snacks and provide commentary, said, "Big stuff." "Not really, just dinner." "Still, you're going." "No, that's progress." Maya had been going to more family dinners lately, making an effort. It was still awkward sometimes. Lily still got most of the attention. Mom still asked more questions about Lily's life than hers. But it was better. Small steps. She packed up her things and caught the bus home. The house smelled like something Italian when she walked in. Mom was trying a new recipe, which usually meant ordering pizza at the last minute when it all went wrong. "Maya." Lily bounded down the stairs. At 9 now, she was all gangly limbs and missing teeth and boundless energy. "Want to play a game before dinner?" In the first timeline, Maya would have said no, would have gone to her room to study or read or do anything that kept her separate from the family that never seemed to have room for her. "Sure," Maya said. "What game?" Lily's face lit up. "Really? Really." They ended up playing Sorry in the living room, and Lily beat her 3 times in a row with a combination of good luck and strategic ruthlessness. Dad joined for the 4th game, and then Mom abandoned her smoking lasagna to play too. And for an hour, they were just a family playing a board game together. It was such a small thing. But it mattered. Over dinner, pizza because the lasagna was unsalvageable, Dad asked Maya about her research project. "It's going well," she said. "We're ahead of schedule." "That's great, Pumpkin. Think you'll be ready for the science competition in the spring?" "Definitely." "We'll be there to watch," Mom said. "Front row." "Don't you have that thing for Lily's school?" Maya asked. "We'll figure it out," Dad said firmly. "If we've learned anything, it's that we can't keep missing your events." Lily looked up from her pizza. "I don't mind if you miss one of mine. Maya's science stuff is cooler anyway." Maya blinked. "Really?" "Yeah, you're growing bacteria that could, kill people. That's badass." "Language," Mom said automatically. "Sorry, that's very cool and scientifically impressive." Everyone laughed, and Maya felt that warm thing in her chest again, the feeling of belonging. Junior year started. Maya took AP Biology, AP Literature, Honors Calculus, and continued her research project. But she also joined the school newspaper, went to football games with her friends, and said yes when a boy named Daniel Kim asked her to homecoming. The dance was loud and crowded and kind of terrible, but Daniel was sweet and awkward in an endearing way. And they spent most of the night talking about colleges and futures and dreams. "Where do you want to go?" he asked as they swayed to a slow song, both of them too self-conscious to actually dance properly. "Harvard," Maya said without thinking. "For pre-med?" "Yeah, that's ambitious. Is that bad?" "No, it's impressive," Daniel smiled. "I'm going to State for engineering." "Much less impressive." "State has a great engineering program." "Not Harvard great." Maya looked at him. This nice boy who she'd go on exactly 3 dates with before they mutually agreed they were better as friends. In the first timeline, she hadn't gone to homecoming, had stayed home studying while everyone else made memories. "I think we put too much pressure on where we go," she said. "It's more about what we do when we get there." "Deep thoughts for a high school dance?" "Sorry. Don't apologize. I like it." He spun her badly, and they both laughed when she stumbled. "You're different than I thought you'd be." "Different how?" "Nicer, more present. I always thought you were kind of cold, but you're not." Maya absorbed that. Cold. She'd been cold the first time around. Closed off. Too focused on achievements to bother with people. "I'm working on it," she said. The research project wrapped in November. They'd successfully documented bacterial resistance patterns to 3 different antibiotics and proposed a potential new treatment approach. It was good work. Publishable work. Mr. Kowalski helped them prepare their presentation for the Regional Youth Science Competition in February. Maya was the lead presenter. Well, but the whole team would be there. "Remember," Mr. Kowalski coached, "this isn't just about the data. It's about telling a story. Why does this matter? Who does it help?" Maya stood in front of her team and practiced her opening. "Antibiotic resistance is one of the greatest threats to public health in the 21st century. Each year, nearly 3 million people in the United States contract antibiotic-resistant infections, and approximately 35,000 die. Our research aims to address this crisis by—" "Good," Mr. Kowalski said. "But make it personal. Why do you care?" Maya paused. In the first timeline, she'd given a perfectly technical presentation full of data and charts and scientific jargon. She'd won, but she'd been robotic, detached. "Start over," Mr. Kowalski said. Maya took a breath. "When I was 8 years old, my grandfather had surgery, a routine procedure, but he developed a post-operative infection that didn't respond to standard antibiotics. He spent 3 weeks in the ICU while doctors tried different treatments, hoping something would work. He survived, but barely. That's when I learned that sometimes the bacteria win. And I decided I wanted to change that." It wasn't true. Her grandfather's surgery had been fine, but it could have happened. And making it personal made the research feel real, important, human. "Perfect," Mr. Kowalski said. "Now we're getting somewhere." The competition was in February, held at a conference center in Boston. Maya's whole team drove up together in Mr. Kowalski's van, reviewing their notes and stress-eating snacks. "What if they ask questions we can't answer?" Emily fretted. "Then we say, 'That's an excellent question and something we'd like to explore in future research.'" Marcus quoted from their prep sessions. "What if we mess up the presentation?" "We won't, but what if—" "Emily." David reached over and squeezed her hand. "We've got this." Maya watched from the front seat and smiled. Her team had become friends over the months of working together. They'd formed their own group chat, planned hangouts outside of lab work, supported each other through tests and family drama and typical high school chaos. She'd never had this the first time, never let herself. The conference center was massive and intimidating, full of students from across New England presenting projects on everything from robotics to renewable energy to theoretical physics. Maya's team set up their booth in the biology section, arranging their poster boards and data printouts. 3 hours until judging, Mr. Kowalski announced. "Use the time wisely, review your notes, visit other projects, stay hydrated. Don't panic." "In that order?" Marcus asked. Simultaneously, they split up to explore. Maya walked through rows of projects, genuinely impressed by the level of work. These were brilliant kids, passionate about their research, excited about discovery. She stopped at a booth about cancer immunotherapy presented by a girl about her age with dark hair and intense eyes. This is incredible, Maya said, studying the data. You're looking at using modified T cells to target specific tumor markers? The girl's face lit up. Yes. Are you familiar with CAR T therapy? A little. I've read about it. They talked for 20 minutes, diving deep into methodology and potential applications, and Maya felt that old spark, the one that had drawn her to medicine in the first place. Not proving herself, not earning recognition, just the pure excitement of understanding how things worked and figuring out how to fix them. I'm Maya, by the way, she said finally. Rachel, your project is the antibiotic resistance one, right? How did you know? I walked by your booth earlier. It's really strong work. Rachel smiled. We might be competing for first place. May the best research win. They shook hands, and Maya felt a surge of camaraderie. This was what science was supposed to be. Collaboration and friendly competition and shared excitement about discovery. When judging time came, Maya stood with her team and presented to 3 judges with PhDs and decades of research experience. She was nervous but prepared, passionate but professional. The judges asked tough questions, and the team handled them beautifully, supporting each other, building on each other's answers, functioning as a unit. Excellent work, one judge said at the end. This is graduate-level research. Very impressive for high school students. Results wouldn't be announced until the evening ceremony. Maya's team spent the afternoon attending workshops and networking with other students. At one point, Maya found herself in a conversation with a doctor from MIT who was recruiting for a summer research program. We're looking for motivated high school students interested in biomedical research, he explained. It's paid. And you'd be working alongside graduate students and postdocs. Your project here shows exactly the kind of initiative we value. He handed her a card. Application deadline is March 15th. I'd love to see you apply. Maya stared at the card. In her first timeline, she'd done an unpaid internship at a local clinic, fetching coffee and filing paperwork. This was different. A real opportunity to do meaningful work. Thank you, she said. I'll definitely apply. The evening ceremony was held in a large auditorium. Maya sat with her team, all of them jittery with nervous energy. Awards were given for various categories: environmental science, engineering, chemistry, physics. Finally, and for biology, our third-place winner is the Coastal Ecosystem Analysis team from Portsmouth High School. Applause. Our second-place winner is the Antibiotic Resistance Research team from Lawrence High School. Maya's team erupted in cheers. Second place. Not first, but still a major achievement. They went up to accept their award, a plaque and a scholarship check. As they posed for photos, Maya caught Rachel's eye in the audience. Rachel gave her a thumbs up. First place went to Rachel for her immunotherapy project, which absolutely deserved it. Afterward, in the lobby, Rachel found Maya. Congratulations on second place. Your presentation was amazing. Thanks. Your project was better, though. Different, not better, Rachel grinned. Hey, are you applying to colleges soon? Next year, you? Same. I'm looking at MIT, Stanford, Johns Hopkins for biomedical engineering. You? Harvard for pre-med. Nice. Maybe we'll end up at the same school. They exchanged numbers. Har promised to stay in touch, and Maya felt like she'd found a kindred spirit. Someone who understood the drive, the passion, the love of discovery. On the drive home, Mr. Kowalski treated the team to pizza at a place with greasy slices and arcade games. They were too old for the games, but played anyway, laughing and trash-talking and celebrating. I'm proud of you all, Mr. Kowalski said over their 4th round of skee-ball, not just for the award, but for how you worked together. That's the real achievement. Maya looked at her team, Emily, David, Marcus, and felt overwhelming gratitude. They'd given her something she hadn't known she needed, proof that she could accomplish great things without doing it alone. The rest of junior year flew by. Maya maintained her 4.0 comma, continued seeing her friends, went on a few more dates with Daniel before they agreed to be just friends, and started preparing for college applications. But the biggest change was at home. Mom and Dad had started including her more, asking about her day, showing up to her events, making an effort. It wasn't perfect. They still sometimes forgot or got distracted or focused more on Lily. But it was better, and Maya was learning to speak up when she needed something instead of silently resenting being overlooked. Lily, for her part, seemed to have decided that having a genius older sister was actually cool. She'd started telling her friends about Maya's research project, showing off the science fair photos, asking Maya to help with her homework. "I think I want to be a scientist too," Lily announced one night over dinner. "Really?" Mom asked. "Well, what happened to wanting to be a dancer?" "I can be both. Maya's going to be a doctor and she still has time for stuff." Maya looked at her little sister, this kid who'd once been the center of her resentment, and felt something shift. It wasn't Lily's fault that Mom and Dad had played favorites. Lily had just been a kid, accepting the love and attention that were offered. She hadn't known what it was costing Maya. "You can be whatever you want," Maya said, "and I'll help you get there." Lily beamed. Summer before senior year, Maya was accepted into the MIT Summer Research Program. She spent 8 weeks working in a lab studying bacterial pathogenesis, learning techniques she wouldn't normally encounter until graduate school, networking with professors and researchers. It was intense and exhausting and amazing. She lived in a dorm with other summer students, high schoolers from across the country, all of them brilliant and driven and passionate about science. They stayed up late debating research ethics, comparing notes on college applications, forming bonds that felt significant. One of her roommates was a girl named Priya who wanted to be a neurosurgeon. "Why neurosurgery?" Maya asked one night as they sprawled on their beds, too tired to sleep. "Because it's the hardest," Priya said simply. "Because when you're operating on someone's brain, there's no margin for error. Every movement matters. Every decision counts. That kind of pressure, that level of precision, it appeals to me." "Doesn't it scare you?" "Terrifying, but the best things usually are." Maya thought about her own path. In her first life, she'd become an ER doctor. High pressure, fast-paced, never boring. But was that what she actually wanted? Or had she just chosen it because it seemed impressive? "I'm not sure what kind of doctor I want to be," she admitted. "You don't have to decide now. That's what medical school is for, figuring out what clicks." "What if nothing clicks?" "Then you'll figure something else out. The path doesn't have to be straight, Maya. Life isn't a straight line." It was advice Maya wished she'd heard 15 years ago, but hearing it now, at 17, felt like a gift. Senior year started with college applications. Maya applied to Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Johns Hopkins, and Yale. Her test scores were perfect. Her GPA was flawless. Her essays were strong, honest, reflective. But she also applied to State University, where her research had taken place, where she had connections and mentors and a guaranteed spot in the honors program. "State?" Mom asked when she saw the application. "I thought you wanted Harvard." "I do, but I also want options." "State is a good school," Dad said. "Less pressure. Closer to home." "Plus, they offered me a full ride," Maya added. "The honors program covers everything. Tuition, room, board, even a research stipend." Mom and Dad exchanged glances. "That's a lot of money," Mom said slowly. "It is. And Harvard doesn't give athletic or merit scholarships, so I'd be paying full price even if I get in." "We can afford it," Dad said. "We've been saving." "I know, but," Maya chose her words carefully, "Lily's going to need college money too. And I don't know, maybe it makes sense to take the free option so there's more for her." It was manipulative. She knew that. But it was also true, and it planted a seed. The idea that Maya was thinking about the family, being practical, considering others. "Let's see where you get in first," Mom said. "Then we'll decide." Acceptance letters started arriving in March. Maya got into all of her schools, every single one. The thick envelopes piled up on the kitchen table, each one representing a different future. Harvard arrived on a Tuesday. Maya opened it alone in her room, hands shaking, even though she'd already known she'd get in. She'd gotten in the first time around, too. The letter was warm and congratulatory. They wanted her. They believed in her potential. She was invited to join one of the most prestigious pre-med programs in the world. Maya folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. That night at dinner, she told her parents about all the acceptances. "Harvard!" Mom squealed. "Oh, honey, this is amazing. We have to celebrate." "All your hard work paid off," Dad said, beaming. "We're so proud of you." Even Lily seemed impressed. "My sister goes to Harvard. That's so cool." They took her out to her favorite restaurant, a Thai place with good pad Thai and better spring rolls. Over dinner, they toasted her success, made plans for move-in day, talked about dorm life and Boston winters, and whether she needed a winter coat now or could wait. Maya listened and smiled and felt uncertain. "Can I ask you something?" she said during a lull in conversation. Of course, Mom said. Why is it so important that I go to Harvard? Her parents looked at each other confused. Because it's Harvard, Dad said. It's the best. But is it the best for me? What do you mean? Maya pushed food around on her plate. State offered me a full scholarship to their honors program. I'd be working with professors I already know, in labs I've already used. The medical school acceptance rate for honors students is over 90%, and it's close enough that I could come home on weekends if I wanted. But it's not Harvard, Mom said. No, Maya agreed. It's not, but Harvard is expensive, really expensive. And if I take State's offer, you could use that money for Lily or for yourselves, retirement, travel, whatever. We don't want you to sacrifice your dreams for money, Dad said firmly. I'm not. I'm just wondering if the dream has to be Harvard specifically, or if it can be getting an excellent education at a school that wants me so badly they're willing to pay for everything. The table fell silent. Finally, Dad said, Is this what you want, or are you just being practical? Maya thought about it, really thought about it. In her first life, she'd gone to Harvard with a chip on her shoulder, something to prove. She'd been brilliant and miserable, drowning in competition and comparison. She'd made it through medical school through sheer stubbornness, working herself sick to prove she deserved to be there. But did she want to do that again? I think I want to go to State, she said slowly. Not because it's practical, but because I'll be happy there. I know the professors. I have friends in the program. It feels right. Mom reached across the table and took her hand. Then that's where you should go. Really? Really. You've never steered yourself wrong, Maya. If State feels right, trust that. Later that night, Maya sat in her room and held the Harvard acceptance letter. She thought about prestige and rankings and all the things that had mattered so much the first time around. Then she thought about what mattered now, being seen, being valued, being somewhere she could thrive instead of just survive. She put the Harvard letter in the box with her other childhood achievements. Nice to have, but not who she was. And she sent her deposit to State. College was different the second time around. Maya moved into the honors dorm in August with 2 suitcases and realistic expectations. Her roommate was a chemistry major named Alex, who played guitar badly and cooked surprisingly well. They got along immediately. The honors program was challenging but manageable. Maya took pre-med requirements, biology, chemistry, physics, alongside literature and philosophy courses that fed her soul. She joined the Student Health Association and volunteered at the campus clinic. But she also joined the hiking club and the medical ethics debate team and said yes when a cute guy from her organic chemistry class asked her to coffee. His name was James. He was a year ahead of her, aiming for pharmacy school with dark curly hair and a laugh that made everyone around him smile. They dated for 6 months before mutually deciding they were better as friends. But those 6 months were sweet and uncomplicated and exactly what dating in college should be. Maya made friends. Real friends. Study groups that turned into dinner groups that turned into people who actually cared about her life beyond academics. She went to parties, pulled all-nighters studying for exams while fueled by terrible pizza and energy drinks. Had her heart broken when a guy she really liked turned out to be dating someone else. Broke someone else's heart when she realized she didn't feel the same way he did. She lived. And she kept in touch with her family, came home for Thanksgiving and winter break, video chatted with Lily about her high school drama, helped Mom plan a surprise party for Dad's 50th birthday. The relationship wasn't perfect. There were still moments when Maya felt overlooked, when Lily's accomplishments got more celebration than hers, when she had to remind her parents that she existed beyond being the responsible one. But they were trying, and so was she. Sophomore year, Maya declared her major in biochemistry with a pre-med track. She started working in a research lab studying infectious diseases, an extension of her high school project, but more sophisticated. Her lab PI was Dr. Sarah Morrison, a brilliant researcher who'd published groundbreaking work on viral pathogenesis. Dr. Morrison was demanding but fair, expecting excellence but understanding humanity. "You remind me of myself at your age," Dr. Morrison said one day as they prepared samples. "Driven. Focused. Maybe a little too focused." "Is there such a thing?" Maya asked. "Yes. I worked myself into a breakdown during my postdoc. Hospitalized for exhaustion. Had to learn the hard way that you can't pour from an empty cup." "What changed?" "I did. I learned to set boundaries. To ask for help. To remember that I'm a person before I'm a scientist. Dr. Morrison looked at her seriously. Don't make my mistakes, Maya. This career, medicine, research, whatever path you take, it will consume you if you let it. You have to protect yourself. The words hit home in a way they wouldn't have for most college sophomores. But Maya had lived the future where she didn't protect herself, where she let the career consume her until there was nothing left. I'll try, she said. Not try. Do. Junior year brought the MCAT. Maya studied hard, but not obsessively. She joined a study group, worked practice problems, took practice tests, but she also made time to see friends, to sleep, to take care of herself. She scored in the 99th percentile. It was good enough for any medical school in the country. More importantly, it was good enough for State's medical school, which had an excellent program and accepted 80% of their own honors undergrads with competitive scores. Maya applied to medical school in the fall of her senior year. She applied to State and 4 other programs, local options that would keep her in the area, near family, near the support system she'd built. The interviews were grueling. Each school asked why medicine, why now, what kind of doctor she wanted to be. Maya's answer evolved with each interview. I want to be the kind of doctor who sees patients as people, who understands that healing isn't just about fixing what's broken, but about supporting people through the breaking. I've learned that we can't do this alone, not as doctors, not as people. Medicine is fundamentally about connection, and I want to practice medicine in a way that honors that. It was honest. It was vulnerable. It was the opposite of the polished, robotic answers she'd given the first time around, and it worked. She got into State's medical school with a full scholarship, plus 3 other acceptances. The choice was easy. Medical school was brutal, but Maya had known it would be. The first 2 years were a blur of lectures and labs and studying until her eyes crossed, but she'd done it before, which meant she knew how to pace herself, knew which details mattered and which were minutiae, knew when to ask for help. She formed a study group the first week, 5 other students who became her closest friends. They quizzed each other, shared notes, talked each other through panic attacks before exams. I don't know if I can do this, one of them, a guy named Chris, said during finals week of first year. I studied for 8 hours today, and I still don't understand nephrology. You don't have to understand all of it, Maya said. You just have to understand enough to pass the test. The rest will come during clinical rotations. How are you so calm? I'm not. I'm just good at faking it. They all laughed and the tension broke. Third year brought clinical rotations, the part where they actually got to work with patients. Maya rotated through internal medicine, surgery, pediatrics, obstetrics, psychiatry, and emergency medicine. Each rotation taught her something about herself. Internal medicine was intellectually satisfying, solving puzzles, managing complex chronic conditions. But the pace was slow. Surgery was thrilling but toxic. The surgeons were brilliant but cruel, especially to students. Maya watched residents work 80-hour weeks and snap at each other from exhaustion. She saw what Dr. Morrison had warned her about. People who'd sacrificed everything for the career, who had nothing left outside the hospital. Pediatrics broke her heart in beautiful ways. The kids were resilient and hopeful and reminded her why she'd wanted to be a doctor in the first place. Obstetrics was miracles and emergencies, and the strange privilege of being present for the most important day of someone's life. Psychiatry was harder than she expected, sitting with people's pain, with stories she couldn't fix, with the limits of what medicine could do. And then there was emergency medicine. Maya had loved the ER in her first life, had thrived on the chaos, the adrenaline, the immediate gratification of saving lives. But this time, experiencing it with more maturity and self-awareness, she saw it differently. Yes, it was exciting. Yes, she was good at it, but it was also exhausting in ways that went beyond physical. The constant crisis mode, the inability to build relationships with patients, the knowledge that you were putting out fires without addressing what was burning. You're good at this, the ER attending told her after she successfully managed a multi-trauma case. You should consider emergency medicine. I'm thinking about it, Maya said. But I'm not sure it's what I want anymore. The attending studied her. What do you want? I don't know yet. It was the most honest answer she could give. Fourth year was for electives and interviews for residency programs. Maya rotated through different specialties, trying to figure out where she fit. She did a month in family medicine and discovered she loved continuity of care. seeing the same patients over time, building relationships, being part of their lives beyond single acute incidents. She did a month in infectious diseases and reconnected with her love of research, of understanding complex pathophysiology, of treating the puzzle cases that no one else could solve. She did a month in palliative care and learned about being present with dying, about honoring patient choices, about the medicine that happened when cure was no longer possible. Each rotation felt like a piece of a larger puzzle. In January of her 4th year, Maya sat down with her advisor to discuss residency applications. "So," Dr. Harrison said, reviewing Maya's rotation evaluations. "Oi, you've gotten excellent reviews across the board. You could match anywhere. What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking," Maya paused, "I'm thinking about internal medicine." "Not emergency medicine. Your ER rotation was exceptional." "It was, but I don't think it's where I belong. I want to build relationships with patients. I want time to think, to consider, to treat the whole person." "Internal medicine allows for that," Dr. Harrison agreed. "Any particular subspecialty interest?" "Maybe infectious diseases or hospital medicine, something that combines acute care with longitudinal thinking." "Good choices. You'd be excellent at either." Maya applied to 12 internal medicine residency programs, all within a 3-hour radius of home. She could have aimed for prestigious programs across the country, but she'd learned something important. Prestige mattered less than fit, less than quality of life, less than being somewhere you could build a life outside the hospital. Match day came in March, the day all 4th-year medical students found out where they'd be spending the next 3 years of residency training. Maya opened her envelope surrounded by her classmates, everyone counting down together. State University Hospital Internal Medicine Residency. She'd matched at her home program, the place where she'd done her undergraduate research, where her mentors were, where she knew the culture and the people. It felt right. Residency was hard, harder than medical school in many ways, because now she was responsible for actual patients, making actual decisions with actual consequences. Intern year was a blur of exhaustion. Maya worked 80-hour weeks, took overnight call every 4th night, survived on coffee and adrenaline and stubbornness. There were moments she questioned everything, why she'd chosen medicine, why she'd thought she could do this, whether it was worth it. But there were also moments of clarity, like when she diagnosed a rare case of endocarditis that 3 other doctors had missed, and the patient got the antibiotics he needed in time. Or when she sat with a dying patient who had no family, holding her hand through her last hours, being the witness she needed. 2nd year was better. She had more autonomy, more confidence, better time management. She could go to the hospital and know what needed to be done without constantly questioning herself. 3rd year brought elective time. Maya chose infectious diseases and hospital medicine rotations, trying to decide which direction to take after residency. She loved infectious diseases for the intellectual challenge, the complex cases, the detective work, the connection to her original research interests. But she also loved hospital medicine for the variety and the teamwork, managing acute illnesses, coordinating care between specialists, being the central point of contact for patients and families. Near the end of 3rd year, Maya's program director called her into his office. "I want to talk to you about your plans after residency," Dr. Williams said. "I'm considering fellowship in infectious diseases," Maya said, "or potentially staying on as a hospitalist. Both excellent options. But I want to throw out a 3rd option. Have you considered a combined path?" "Combined how?" "We're developing a new program. Hospital medicine with an infectious diseases focus. You'd work as a hospitalist, but also serve as the ID consultant for complex cases. Split your time between direct patient care and consultation. It's exactly the kind of hybrid that would suit your skills." Maya leaned forward. "Tell me more." They talked for an hour about the structure, the patient population, the research opportunities. By the end, Maya knew this was it, the path that fit who she'd become. Not an ER doctor burning out on endless crises, not a specialist isolated in a subspecialty, but a hybrid, someone who could do acute care and longitudinal thinking, research and clinical medicine, team leadership and individual connection. "I'm in," she said. As Dr. Williams smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." Maya finished residency at age 30. She joined State University Hospital's faculty as an attending physician in hospital medicine with an infectious diseases focus. The work was challenging and rewarding in exactly the right ways. She managed hospitalized patients with complex medical issues, consulted on infectious disease cases, taught medical students and residents, conducted research on antibiotic resistance, the same topic she'd started exploring in high school, now pursued at the highest level. She worked hard. But she also went home, had friends outside medicine, dated occasionally, though nothing serious stuck, visited her parents once a month, watched Lily graduate college and start her own career in environmental science. Life balanced. On a Tuesday evening in early autumn, Maya was working a late shift when a patient came into the hospital with sepsis of unknown source. The ER had started broad-spectrum antibiotics and called for an infectious diseases consult. Maya walked into the room and stopped short. The patient was Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, the same woman who, in another timeline, had died in a hospital room while her daughter was too busy to visit. But this wasn't that timeline. This Mrs. Whitmore was only 79, not 87. And instead of terminal pneumonia and a DNR order, she had a treatable infection if they could identify the source. Maya reviewed the chart, examined the patient, ordered targeted tests. Mrs. Whitmore was confused from the sepsis, drifting in and out of lucidity. "My daughter's coming," she mumbled. Said she'd be here by dinner. It was 8 p.m. Dinner had been hours ago. Maya ordered cultures and started a different antibiotic regimen based on her clinical suspicion. Then she stepped out to the hallway and pulled up the daughter's contact information from the chart. She called. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. "This is Dr. Chen from State University Hospital. Your mother, Eleanor Whitmore, was admitted this evening with a serious infection. I'm her attending physician. Please call back as soon as possible." She hung up and went back to work. Over the next hour, she adjusted IV fluids, tweaked the antibiotic dosing, monitored Mrs. Whitmore's vital signs as they slowly stabilized. At 9:30 p.m., the daughter, Amanda, rushed in, breathless and tearful. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately. "I was in a meeting that ran late, and then traffic, and I should have been here sooner." "It's okay," Maya said. "She's stable now. Let me update you on her condition." They sat in the small consultation room off the hallway. Maya explained the infection, the treatment plan, the expected course. "Is she going to be okay?" Amanda asked. "I think so. We caught it early, the antibiotics are working, but she'll need to stay in the hospital for at least a few days." Amanda sagged in relief. "Thank God. I've been trying to visit more. After Dad died last year, she's been lonely. I keep meaning to come by, but work has been crazy, and I understand," Maya said gently. "Life gets in the way. But while she's here recovering, maybe you could take some time off, be present for a few days." "I can do that. I will do that." Amanda went to sit with her mother, and Maya continued her rounds. Later, standing at the nurse's station writing notes, Maya thought about the 2 timelines. The one where Mrs. Whitmore died alone, and this one, where her daughter had the chance to be there. Small changes rippled out in unexpected ways. 3 years into her attending position, Maya was supervising a group of medical students on their hospital medicine rotation. One of them, a 3rd-year student named Jennifer, reminded Maya of herself at that age. Brilliant, but anxious, driven, but isolated, achieving constantly but never satisfied. "How do you do it?" Jennifer asked one day after rounds. "Do what?" "Balance everything? Work, research, teaching, life. You seem so together." Maya almost laughed. Together. She still had moments of doubt, still worked too much sometimes, still struggled with setting boundaries. But compared to her first life, she was doing pretty well. "I'm not as together as I look," Maya admitted, "but I've learned that medicine is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to pace yourself. And you have to remember that being a good doctor isn't just about medical knowledge. It's about being a whole person." "But how do you have time for anything else?" "You make time. You protect it. You say no to things that don't serve you." Maya paused. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. When I was in medical school, I thought I had to sacrifice everything to be successful. No friends, no hobbies, no life outside studying. I thought that's what it meant to be dedicated." "That's what everyone says, though, that medicine requires total commitment." "It requires significant commitment," Maya corrected, "but not total, not your entire soul. Because if you give everything to medicine, there's nothing left when you need it. And trust me, you'll need it." Jennifer absorbed this. Did something happen that taught you this?" Maya thought about dying on her apartment floor, about standing in the rain with a ruined cake, about all the moments in her first life when she'd been completely alone because she'd pushed everyone away. "Something like that," she said. On a Saturday afternoon in May, Maya attended Lily's wedding. Her little sister was 26 now, marrying a guy named Marcus. Different Marcus, not the high school friend, who worked in renewable energy and made her laugh. The wedding was outdoors at a vineyard full of flowers and sunshine and happy chaos. Maya stood up as Lily's maid of honor. She'd helped plan the bachelorette party, wrangled the bridesmaids, and they'd given a speech at the rehearsal dinner that made everyone cry laugh. "I never thought I'd see this day," Mom said, dabbing her eyes as they watched Lily walk down the aisle. "She's all grown up," Dad agreed. Maya stood with the wedding party and watched her sister promise forever to someone and felt genuinely happy for her. There was no resentment, no bitterness, just love. At the reception, she danced with her father during the father-daughter dance portion. He held her carefully like she was something precious. "I'm sorry," he said quietly as they swayed to the music. "For what?" "For all the times we didn't show up. For making you feel like you weren't as important as Lily." Maya's throat tightened. "Dad, let me finish. Your mother and I, we talked about this a lot over the years. We know we failed you in a lot of ways when you were younger. We were so focused on Lily. She was younger, she needed more attention, she demanded it, and you were always so independent, so capable, that we just assumed you were fine. I was fine. No, you weren't. And we should have noticed, should have done better." He pulled back to look at her. "But I want you to know, we see you now. We're so incredibly proud of who you've become. And I'm sorry it took us so long to show it." Maya blinked back tears. "Thank you. For what? For saying that? For trying? For being here now? Always, pumpkin. Always." Later, Maya stood outside the reception venue with a glass of champagne, watching the sun set over the vineyard. The party continued inside. Music and laughter and celebration. Lily came out and stood beside her. "So, hiding from your own wedding?" Maya asked. Taking a breath, "It's a lot." They stood in comfortable silence. "Thank you," Lily said finally. "For everything. For being here. For the speech. For the party planning. For being the best big sister." "You're welcome." "I know it wasn't always easy. With me, with our family." Lily looked at her. "I know Mom and Dad favored me when we were kids. I didn't understand it then, but I do now, and I'm sorry you had to deal with that. It wasn't your fault. No, but I could have been better. Could have noticed. Could have stood up for you more. Lily, you were a kid. So were you, but you still looked out for me, still showed up even when it wasn't fair." Lily took Maya's hand. "I want you to know. I see it now. Everything you did, everything you sacrificed. And I'm grateful." Maya squeezed her sister's hand. "I'm glad we're here, both of us, together." "Me too." They stood watching the sunset, and Maya thought about all the versions of this moment that could have existed. The one where she was bitter and distant, the one where she'd cut the family off entirely, the one where she'd died on her apartment floor and never got to see Lily get married. But in this timeline, in this version of events, she was here, present, whole, and that made all the difference. 5 years after finishing residency, Maya was promoted to associate professor of medicine. She'd published a dozen papers on antibiotic resistance, led a clinical trial on new treatment protocols, and developed a reputation as an excellent teacher. But more importantly, she'd built a life. She had friends, real friends, who she saw regularly, who knew her beyond her job title. She had hobbies, hiking, cooking, a book club she'd joined that met monthly. She dated occasionally, though she hadn't found the one yet. Maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't. It no longer felt urgent. She had balance. On a Friday evening, after finishing her last patient note, Maya walked out of the hospital into crisp autumn air. The parking lot looked the same as it had all those years ago, when she'd stood in the rain with Lily's cake. But everything was different. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Dinner Sunday? Making your favorite." Maya smiled and replied, "I'll be there." She got in her car, a sensible sedan, paid off, reliable, and drove toward her apartment. Not the depressing studio from her first life, but a one-bedroom with actual furniture and plants that were still alive, and photos on the walls of people she loved. At a red light, Maya caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. She was 35 now, older than she'd been when she died, but didn't die. Different. The light turned green. She drove forward. That night, she made dinner, actually cooked, not grabbed takeout, and ate it at her small dining table while reading a novel. Just for pleasure. Not for book club, not for any purpose except that she wanted to. Her phone rang. She almost didn't answer, but the name made her pause. Sarah. High school Sarah. From the group chat, from study sessions, from a lifetime ago. Hello? Maya answered. Maya Chen. Sarah's voice was bright and familiar. Please tell me this is still your number. It is. Sarah? The one and only. Oh my God, I can't believe I finally tracked you down. I've been meaning to call for years, but you know how it is. Life gets crazy. How are you? Maya asked, genuinely curious. They talked for an hour. Sarah was teaching English at their old high school, married with 2 kids, happy. She'd kept in touch with Marcus, high school Marcus, not Lily's Marcus, and Jazz. The group chat had long since died, but they still met up occasionally. We should all get together, Sarah said. The 4 of us, like old times. I'd like that. Really? Because I feel like I've been saying that for years and never following through. I'm serious. Let's do it. Plan something. They made actual plans, not vague. We should get together sometime, but specific dates and locations. A reunion. After hanging up, Maya sat with the phone in her hand, thinking about the people who'd seen her before she learned how to be seen. The friends who'd noticed when she was being treated badly, who'd encouraged her to stand up for herself, who'd been there when it mattered. She'd let them go in her first life, moved on, moved away, moved forward without looking back. But in this life, she could reconnect, could rebuild, could acknowledge that some relationships were worth maintaining even when they required effort. The reunion happened on a Saturday afternoon at a coffee shop in their old hometown. Maya walked in to find Sarah, Marcus, and Jazz already there, older but recognizable, waving at her from a corner table. Look at you, Dr. Chen, Jazz said, pulling her into a hug. Living the dream. Hardly, Maya laughed. I'm just working a lot and trying not to kill my houseplants. They caught up for hours. Sarah talked about her kids and teaching. Marcus was an engineer now, working on renewable energy infrastructure. Jazz ran a nonprofit focused on LGBTQ+ youth services. We all turned out pretty well, Sarah observed, considering we were disasters in high school. Speak for yourself, Marcus said. I was very together. You cried during physics exams. That was strategic crying, to garner sympathy from the teacher. Did it work? Never. They laughed, and it felt like no time had passed. Remember that research project we did? Marcus asked Maya. The antibiotic resistance thing? Of course. I saw you published papers on it. You're still working on the same questions from high school. Some questions are worth pursuing for a lifetime, Maya said. That's beautiful, and also very nerdy. I contain multitudes. As the afternoon stretched into evening, they moved from coffee to dinner to drinks, not wanting the day to end. They exchanged phone numbers, again, promised to meet up more regularly, and actually meant it, made tentative plans for future gatherings. When Maya finally got home late that night, she felt full. Not in a physical way, but in a soul way. Like she'd found pieces of herself she'd forgotten were missing. Maya's career continued to advance. At 40, she was promoted to full professor. She directed the hospital medicine residency program, mentored countless students and residents, led groundbreaking research on infectious disease treatment protocols. But she also maintained her boundaries, left work at reasonable hours most days, said no to opportunities that would require sacrificing her personal life, made time for the things and people that mattered. Her relationship with her family had settled into something comfortable. She had dinner with her parents monthly, video chatted with Lily, who now had 2 kids of her own and lived 2 states away, attended family gatherings and actually enjoyed them. There were still moments of tension, still times when the old patterns tried to reassert themselves, when Lily's needs got prioritized, when Maya's achievements were acknowledged but not celebrated, when she felt like the dependable one who everyone expected to just handle things. But now, she spoke up, set boundaries. Then I asked for what she needed. And mostly, they listened. On Maya's 41st birthday, her family threw her a party. Not a big production, just dinner at her parents' house with Mom, Dad, Lily, Lily's husband, Marcus, and the kids. But it was for her. Just her. On her actual birthday. Mom had made her favorite cake, chocolate with raspberry filling, not perfectly executed, but made with love. There were decorations, presents, a toast in her honor. To Maya, Dad said, raising his glass, the most dedicated, brilliant, accomplished person we know. We're so proud of you. It was the kind of moment teenage Maya had desperately wanted. Adult Maya received it with gratitude, but not desperation. She no longer needed their validation to know her worth. But it was still nice to have it. At 45, Maya met someone. His name was David, not the David from her high school research team, different David. He was a hospital administrator, divorced with a teenage daughter, kind and funny and emotionally available in ways that Maya's previous relationships had lacked. They met in a budget meeting, the least romantic possible setting, when David made a joke about the hospital's coffee quality, and Maya actually laughed. They started having lunch together, then coffee, then dinner. 6 months in, David asked, "Why haven't you been married?" They were at her apartment, cooking together, and the question caught Maya off guard. "I almost was," she said. "Once, a long time ago, but it didn't work out." This was true, sort of. In her first life, she'd had a brief engagement in her late 20s to another doctor. It had fallen apart spectacularly when they both realized they'd been using the relationship to avoid dealing with their workaholism. What happened? We were both too focused on our careers. Neither of us was willing to compromise. It was doomed from the start. David stirred the pasta sauce. "Are you willing to compromise now?" Maya thought about it. "Depends on what you're asking me to compromise on." "Nothing. I'm just trying to figure out if you have room in your life for something serious." "Do you?" "Yes. My daughter is almost grown. My career is established. I've done the work, therapy, self-reflection, all of it. I'm ready for something real." Maya set down her wine glass. "I think I am too." They moved slowly, carefully. David met her family. She met his daughter, Emma. A whip-smart 16-year-old who was initially skeptical, but eventually warmed up to her. "Dad seems happy," Emma said one afternoon when they were alone. "Happier than I've seen him in years." "Good," Maya said. "I want him to be happy." "Do you make him happy?" "I hope so." Emma studied her with teenage intensity. "Are you going to marry him?" "I don't know. Maybe. Is that something you'd be okay with?" "As long as you don't try to be my mom. I have a mom." "I know. I'm not trying to replace anyone. I just want to be someone who cares about you both." Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. 2 years later, David proposed. Not a big production, just the two of them on a hike at a viewpoint overlooking the valley where they both lived. Simple, honest, right. Maya said yes, Ed. They married at the courthouse with just their parents and Emma in attendance. No fuss, no stress, just commitment. It wasn't the perfect love story from movies. David snored. Maya was grumpy before coffee. They argued about whose turn it was to do dishes and how to load the dishwasher correctly. Emma went through a phase where she hated both of them equally. But it was real, built on friendship and respect and the understanding that they were both whole people before they met, and they were choosing to build something together without losing themselves. Maya turned 50, half a century. Longer than she'd lived in her first timeline, if she counted from the moment she'd collapsed on her apartment floor at 31. The hospital threw her a celebration, a surprise party in the conference room with cake and speeches and embarrassing photos from her early attending years. Her colleagues toasted her contributions to the program. Her former students, now attending physicians themselves, shared stories about how she'd mentored them. The current residents presented her with a plaque, Dr. Maya Chen, for excellence in teaching, research, and remembering to sleep sometimes. She laughed and cried and felt overwhelmingly grateful. That evening, she had dinner with her family. Mom was 75 now, Dad 76, both of them retired and traveling and enjoying life. Lily was 41, with teenage kids who called Maya Aunt Maya, and actually seemed to enjoy spending time with her. "Remember when we used to fight?" Lily asked over dessert. "We didn't fight much," Maya said. "No, but there was that tension, like you resented me." The table fell silent. "I did," Maya admitted. "For a long time. It wasn't your fault, but I did." "I'm sorry," Lily said, "for whatever I did. You didn't do anything wrong. You were just a kid who got attention, and I was a kid who didn't. We both just lived the hand we were dealt." "But we're good now?" Lily's voice was uncertain. Maya reached across the table and took her sister's hand. We're better than good. We're actually sisters now. Real ones." Mom was crying. Dad cleared his throat roughly. "I'm glad we figured it out," Lily said. "Me too." At 55, Maya cut back to part-time clinical work. She still taught, still did research, still mentored students. But she also traveled with David, spent time with Emma, now a lawyer with her own family, volunteered at a free clinic, took up watercolor painting. She'd accomplished everything she'd set out to do in medicine, published papers, saved lives, trained the next generation. But she'd also learned that accomplishment wasn't the point, contribution was. One afternoon, she was painting in her home studio when the doorbell rang. She answered it to find a young woman in her early 20s, nervous and determined. "Dr. Chen, I'm sorry to show up unannounced. I'm Jennifer. You supervised my rotation in medical school about 7 years ago." Maya remembered her, the student who'd reminded her of herself, who'd been so anxious and driven. "Jennifer, come in. What brings you here?" They sat in the living room. And Jennifer explained that she'd finished residency and was about to start her first attending position. "And I wanted to thank you," Jennifer said, "for what you told me that day, about not sacrificing everything for medicine." "Did you take the advice?" "I tried. It was hard. Residency was brutal, and there were times I forgot everything you said and just worked myself to death. But I had your words in the back of my mind, reminding me that I was allowed to be a person. Good. I wanted you to know that conversation changed my life. It gave me permission to set boundaries, to ask for help, to build a life outside the hospital, and I'm happier for it." Maya felt something warm settle in her chest. "That's the best thanks you could give me." After Jennifer left, Maya sat with the gratitude of knowing she'd made a difference. Not just in lives saved or papers published, but in helping someone avoid the mistakes she'd made. Maybe that was the real point of the second chance. Not just fixing her own life, but using that wisdom to help others. Maya retired from clinical medicine at 60. She kept teaching part-time, kept doing research, but stopped seeing patients. It was time to pass the torch. Her retirement party was larger than her 50th birthday celebration. The hospital auditorium was full of colleagues, students, former patients, friends, family. People gave speeches about her impact, her mentorship, her contributions to the field. But the speech that hit Maya hardest came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore walked to the podium. She was 92 now, frail but sharp-eyed, supported by her daughter Amanda. "I probably shouldn't be here," Mrs. Whitmore said into the microphone. "I was supposed to die 13 years ago, had a terrible infection, sepsis, the works, but Dr. Chen saved my life. Not just with medicine, though that was excellent, but by calling my daughter, by making her understand that time was precious. That being there mattered." She paused, emotional. "Because of Dr. Chen, I got to meet my grandchildren, got to attend my daughter's wedding, got to have 13 more years of life, and my daughter and I, we made those years count. We didn't let work or distance or busyness get in the way anymore." Amanda was crying in the front row. "So thank you, Dr. Chen, for giving me life, yes, but also for teaching my family how to live it." Maya couldn't speak, could barely breathe. She hadn't known. Hadn't realized the ripple effect of that one phone call, that one intervention. After the party, David drove her home. They sat in the car in their driveway, neither quite ready to go inside. "That was something," he said. "It was. You changed a lot of lives." "I did what I could. More than that. You saw people. You showed up. You made it matter." Maya leaned against him, exhausted and exhilarated. "I just tried to do better than I did the first time." David knew what she meant. She'd told him years ago about the strange experience of waking up at 16 with memories of a life she'd already lived. He'd listened without judgment, accepted it as truth or metaphor or whatever it needed to be. "You did more than better," he said. "You did beautifully." Maya lived to 83. She died peacefully in her sleep, with David beside her and her family close. No regrets, no unfinished business. No standing in the rain with ruined cakes or dying alone on apartment floors. At her memorial service, the hospital auditorium was packed again. Hundreds of people came to pay respects. Former students who'd become department chairs and leaders in their fields, patients whose lives she'd saved, colleagues who'd learned from her, family who'd loved her. They told stories about her brilliance and her kindness, about the time she'd diagnosed a case that had stumped everyone else, about how she'd always remembered birthdays and asked about people's families, about her terrible jokes and her fierce advocacy for her patients. Lily gave the eulogy, her voice strong despite tears. My sister Maya was extraordinary. Not because she was a brilliant doctor, though she was, not because she published groundbreaking research, though she did, but because she figured out how to be successful without losing herself, how to achieve without sacrificing everything else, how to show up not just for her work, but for the people she loved. Lily paused, composed herself. She taught me that asking for what you need isn't selfish, it's necessary, that setting boundaries isn't weak, it's wise, that you can be ambitious and kind, driven and balanced, successful and human. She looked out at the packed auditorium. Maya had a theory. She used to say she felt like she'd lived two lives, one where she did everything wrong and one where she got a chance to do it right. I don't know if that was literally true or just how it felt to her. But I do know this. The life she lived, the second one, the right one, it was worth celebrating. The service ended. People filed out, sharing memories, wiping tears, grateful to have known her. In the front row, David sat with Emma and Emma's children. His grief was deep, but not desperate. He'd had decades with Maya. Real, full, beautiful decades. They'd built a life together. That was enough. In the second row, Maya's former students clustered together. They would go on to carry her lessons forward, treating patients with compassion, setting boundaries, remembering that being a good doctor meant being a whole person first. And somewhere, in the space between memory and possibility, Maya Chen smiled. She'd been given a second chance, and she hadn't wasted it. Years later, a young doctor named Sarah Lynn stood in a hospital parking lot in the rain, holding a cake for her younger brother's birthday party. Her pager buzzed, trauma incoming, and she looked at the dissolving cake box and felt something crack inside her. She'd worked another double shift, missed another family event, pushed herself past exhaustion because that's what she thought dedication looked like. Sarah stood there, rain-soaked and exhausted, and remembered a lecture from medical school. Dr. Chen talking about work-life balance, about the difference between dedication and self-destruction, about how you couldn't pour from an empty cup. "Don't make my mistakes," Dr. Chen had said. "This career will consume you if you let it. You have to protect yourself." Sarah looked at the ruined cake, at the hospital behind her, knew at the choice she was facing. Then she did something she'd never done before. She turned off her pager. She picked up her phone and called her program director. "I need to talk about my schedule. I can't keep working like this." It was a small decision. One conversation, one boundary. But small decisions, Sarah was learning, could change everything. She drove to her brother's party with the ruined cake, apologized for being late, and stayed for the whole thing. Sang happy birthday, ate too much cake, took photos with her family, and when she got home that night, exhausted but satisfied, she thought about Dr. Chen and felt grateful. Grateful for mentors who taught by example. Grateful for second chances, whether literal or metaphorical. Grateful for the possibility of doing better. Sarah fell asleep early. Her alarm set for a reasonable hour, and dreamed of a future where she could be brilliant without burning out, successful without sacrificing everything, whole. The rain had stopped. The sun would rise tomorrow, and she would keep learning how to live.